All right, welcome. Thanks everyone for joining here, our webinar today on After COVID-19, Then What? That sounds hopeful in of itself, right? It's coming to an end. The after will happen. I can assure you of that. What will the future look like? How's the country, how's the economy going to be different? How are we going to change? How are we going to adapt? And I think there's a lot of opportunity for each one of us to start preparing for the after right now. So today's an open discussion to prepare your team, some of the things that we've learned, etc. But a couple of things. I just want to welcome Scott Seefeld. Scott is the co-founder of Titus Talent Strategies. He and I founded this organization 10 years back in the midst of, or coming out of, the tail end of the Great Recession. So we were birthed in adversity. We were birthed in a time where people were saying, what next? When is this going to end? And there was a lot going on in the talent space. And that's who we are. We're a talent strategy firm. So we wanted to share our knowledge. Since the explosion of COVID-19 in the United States, we shifted really quickly and said, how can we serve our partners? We have 700 or 800 global partners, mainly in the United States. And we wanted to offer back really some of the things that we've learned as a 100% mobile company over the last 10 years. And so welcome, Scott. Scott's been through 4 economic downturns, and so got a lot of wisdom on this topic. And it doesn't mean he's old, but it does mean that he's got lots of wisdom and gray hair. So back in 2012, we made a bold move to be 100% mobile. We call it remote. Sorry, we call it mobile. The rest of the world seems to call it remote. So it's kind of ironic, really. We chose the word mobile workforce because remote sounds like isolation, but everyone's being told to isolate right now. So it's kind of backfiring. Our people are no longer mobile. They can't go anywhere. They can't move around and be transient. But we have learned lots of things through being a remote workforce, leading and managing in remote workforce, creating high-performing teams as an Inc. 5000 fastest-growing company. We've certainly learned a few things about performance and about growth and about managing through some of the crisis. So, but let's talk about some of the things that you're all facing. For those of you who joined this webinar, I am sure you've arrived here saying, "Okay, I got some concerns." Well, the experts show some concerns as well. But Scott, I'm going to tee this up for you.
Thank you, Jonathan, and good to be with everyone today. Here are some expert concerns that we're seeing from many organizations. This is coming from experts such as Bain & Company, Harvard Business Review, ITR, which is a highly respected economist. But there's a lot of concerns that 20% of the companies out there will not survive. That's a very sad and unfortunate statistic. There's going to be a lot of loss of top talent. We're starting to hear and see tremendous concerns in this area. So it's going to be really important to keep your top talent. Our business is shifting and changing fast enough. We live in a fast world, but things just got faster. And then, is leadership ready for the rebound? These are more questions because that ITR, as well as other economists, are saying, yes, there's always an end to a crisis and things are going to change. And then finally, there's been a lot of concerns expressed regarding this remote environment and productivity, accountability. They're at an all-time low. So how do we deal in this new normal? So shifting to the next slide.
Yeah.
There's 3 key aspects to a rebound, or to a crisis, I should say, whether we realize it or not. It's we respond, we reimagine, and we rebound. And so before we can answer the now what do we do, we need to understand these 3 processes and kind of dive into them a little bit. So I'm going to go into the respond aspect of things. And this is probably things that most organizations have already done or in the process of handling. So one of those things is cash is king. We're all looking at 13-week rolling cash flow statements. We're stress testing our financials. We are looking at our projections. We're cutting costs. Some of that might be including people, furloughs, and things of that nature. We're also increasing our communications and transparency. So how are we communicating with our employees and responding to their questions and concerns? Another one is establishing a response team, different from your leadership team. There's a lot of routines that businesses have, and these crises really disrupt the normal routine. So you've got to have a separate team responding to those. And then most importantly, time is your enemy, and we have to act fast. So one of the things, if you go to the next slide, one of the things that we thought that this would be an interesting slide to kind of transition. So go ahead and play it, Jonathan, and we'll transition to you.
Fall down, okay? Don't worry.
Okay, then Lauren's going to catch you.
Close your sides? Okay.
Okay, it's called the trust fall. Okay, trust fall. Ready, set, go.
And close.
Oh gosh. So I'll just tee that one up, but I thought it was a classic video right there of the topic is trust. The topic is you fall, I'll catch you, just trust me. But the big dinger here is the communication failure. The instruction to trust me and fall, but with the lack of clarity of where to fall. The lack of instruction of what is important, most important at this time, I think is huge for us as organizations right now. And this is something that as a talent strategy organization working with our clients in the last month, as a bit of a panic mode of what do we do with this this new temporary situation of everybody's trying to figure out how to work from home, work remote, what's expected, what about performance, what about this, what about communication, what about my mental health and well-being, what about our future, all of these questions. And we're trying to navigate communication. But if it is not clear communication, people do not know what's going on. And then when they fall the wrong direction, and then they're going to get hurt. We're trying to navigate that as best as possible, but it requires an uptick in communication. It requires an uptick in clarity from leadership, of the voice of leaders in organizations. And those who are giving more rather than less are faring a heck of a lot better. And we're hearing a lot of this, not only from our clients, but also, believe it or not, as a major part of our company as a recruiting firm, a passive candidate headhunting firm, we have seen an increase in response rates, or positive response rates, we call them, from passive candidates willing to talk. A players who are not laid off, they are producing well, they're liked and admired by their companies and being held on to, but they're listening to us and talking to us. So, and one of the things we're hearing they're listening on is because they're in the dark or they don't know where the company's going, and a lack of communication. So increase your communication and transparency at this time. One of the things that we did is a survey, which we do engagement surveys on a 90-day basis. A lot of your organizations probably do the same. And we work with a wonderful partner called Amplify. Amplify really diagnoses 17 different psychological drivers. The big three are safety, meaning, and capacity. And I think more than ever, these are shining true. Is, oh, do I feel safe in my current role, with my current company, with my current leaders? Do I feel safe to be me? Do I feel safe to ask the questions that need to be asked? Do I feel safe to express how I'm feeling at this time or without retribution or negative retribution? The next is meaning. Is the work that I'm doing meaningful? Well, for a lot of people, they're no longer working. So the sense of meaning in alignment with your organization has been taken away. They don't feel a sense of meaning, productivity, etc., because they're unable to work, or they're working less, or they've been furloughed. And so that is huge right now as a major psychological driver causing stress. And the next is capacity. Do I have the ability physically, mentally, psychologically, emotionally to do the job? And am I equipped with the tools to do the job as well. So is that there? Has that been given to me? And those are the big, big drivers. But you can see everything else from fairness, friendship, manager, feedback, trust, purpose, professional development. All of those remain even in this crisis. Although many organizations are in a position of we're just in survival, these things and these areas of psychological drivers are still at bay in people. And when we look at in all individuals, we say, okay, they don't just work for you just because of their resume and career path. There's also a value alignment and kind of their why. Why do they do what they do? And then the other component is their behaviors, the cognitive and behaviors. And how do they perform and how do they act when the pressure is on and the pressure's off? And people are feeling pressure and they may be behaving in ways that kind of catch us off guard. And maybe for our own selves, we're behaving in ways that catch us off guard. So we talk about the head, the heart, and the briefcase, and looking at all three of those, aligning them together and making sure that we are caring for people in the midst of these times. So I think it's really important here that we're assessing and getting response. So one of the things our good friends at Amplify did is created a really nice COVID response survey, very short 5-minute survey that we were able to send to all of our teams and say, how are we doing in this crisis? What do you need from us? More communication, less communication? Are you hopeful of the future? Are you concerned? Where are the concerns at? The data was so valuable to us as leaders that we were able to communicate from that stance and not assuming. And it's hard for us to reach out and personally connect with everyone, but we're really, increasing that. But the survey very, very much helped. At the end of this webinar, we'll give you a kind of a sort of next steps. If you would like further information, I'd love to send you complimentary of us that Amplify survey, and it'll give you phenomenal data along with another tool in a bit. But so, all right, reimagine. So respond, reimagine. Talk to us about this, Scott.
Thank you, Jonathan. And
you muted out. There you go.
Thanks, Jonathan. Thanks for the, I forgot to take my mute button off. But I think it's a good reminder, your whole segue on employee engagement, because you cannot get to the rebound phase if you don't retain your top employees. And so those surveys, those pulse points are really, really critical. So thank you for that. Before we get into Reimagine, I do want to go out of order for a bit and talk about the rebound. Because the $1 million question out there is, when are things going to rebound? What are we talking about here? I think not just what I think, but what ITR, this economics that highly respected, I saw them back in 2008. They called the Great Recession. They're predicting June and July timeframe. We're also starting to see federal and state government work with one another to start to slowly get the country as well as businesses back. So with that, we're looking at probably 60 to 90 days. So that's not a whole lot of time. And the question is, do you want to be ahead of the curve as a leader, or do you want to ride it? And I know as a leader, I want to be ahead of the curve and set ourselves up for thriving at the beginning of Q3, because the crisis is going to be over, and not completely over, but it's going to, there's always an end to this, and that is going to be a good start point. So getting to Reimagine, there's some important questions. What is your business going to look like? How's it going to change? Do I have the right people? And how can I re-energize and enhance culture during such a challenging time? I'm going to turn it back to Jonathan to talk a little bit about our talent optimization wheel, which are many areas. There's 9 key themes, and there's many areas that we get as part of our recruiting process. So I'll turn it back to you, Jonathan.
Yeah, I think it is really, really important to look at the right people in the right seats as you go forward. And when you look at what's going to change with your business and look at key positions in your organization, we call them, we don't have an org chart, we have an accountability chart. So it really outlines, for every person in every spot on the traditional org chart, what are 3 to 5 things that they are held accountable for? And that goes through the entire organization. And so we can look at that. And then when we look at our accountability chart for the next 90 days and 180 days, saying, okay, what's shifting and what roles need to be in place that we don't have in place right now? So what are the areas that we need to have somebody accountable for? And then do we have the right people in the right seats? Or a shift need to happen? It's really important that you look at that, otherwise the rebound won't happen. You might keep great people and you can hunker down and try and keep everyone there engaged and present. But if you haven't looked at where you're at the Reimagine, what needs to change and what people do I need in those seats, you're going to be stuck and struggling again. So once you've got those right people in the seats and the re-energizing and enhancing the culture, I think here is where vision and purpose comes back very, very strong. As far as kind of the changes that we might make, but really driving through purpose and vision, which brings hope and clarity, and it'll get your army in the right direction, because you're going to have a lot of clarity to get all of your troops in line to come through and come forward on this one. If there's not clarity and you're trying to reimagine stuff and you got people all over the place not knowing what their roles and responsibilities are, everyone will be chasing the same ball. When you see little kindergartners playing soccer, just all chasing the ball, you don't want to do that. You need to have people in the right positions and the right formation to lead you for a win to come through this. So let me share a little bit about as a talent strategy company, we've identified 9 areas that companies seem to rise or fall on. And everything from looking at Glassdoor reviews to just peering in and working with organizations around their talent strategy. These are in no particular order. It's a wheel, but if you're missing one of the spokes, you can have a bumpy ride. Some of you are missing multiple spokes, but it's actually, do I have clarity on the strategy and vision for each one of these? So I'll just start with vision and strategy. What is the vision and strategy coming out of this? Where are you trying to get to and how are you going to get there? Then do I have the right leadership in place? Is the right person, right seat? And you might find that what got you here won't get you hit there. So really looking at what got you to the point. For us as well, we're hybrid. We've never not hit our numbers historically. We've always exceeded our quota. We've been growing 30+% year over year. And so what got us here, will it get us to the next point, or do we not have the right people in the right seat? We have to evaluate those things. And then with that, do we have the right structure in place? Does something need to be changed or tweaked in our structure? And here may be an opportunity for you to do some things that you've not been able to do before, because it might rock the boat. Well, the boat has been rocked. There is an instability going on. To right size it may mean that you need to shift some people around. Coaching and career pathing, this doesn't stop. In the midst of crisis, people need to know that there is hope and there is a career for them in your organization. One of the things we found really interesting is that people are actually listening to other opportunities right now more than they were 90 days ago. They're actually paying more attention to other opportunities, because where there may be some instability in their organization, they don't know what the future holds. Somebody reaching out to them and saying, hey, we have a key critical role in our organization. Would you be interested? That can seem more stable, where there's instability there and somebody else is hiring. So here's a great opportunity to be passive candidate pipelining and reaching out to passive candidates who are not been displaced, but saying you are coming out of this. It's a very, very good opportunity to go after some A players. Engagement and retention, what's your strategy for that? Are you assessing that? Are you doing stay interviews? Do you know what reasons people would leave if they were to leave? Because if you don't have the right people and your A players and your top performers coming out of this this tragedy that we've been coming through, you're not going to make it. Talent acquisition onboarding, what's your passive candidate strategy? If you're going to do the post and pray thing, you will be attracting the bottom 75%. I'm not saying they're bad. Maybe your company's built around B players, but if you want to go after A players, you have to have a passive candidate attraction strategy. Happily to help you out and navigate you through that. Employment brand, what's your brand and message? Scorecards and results. Literally, what I was just saying about the accountability chart. What is the scorecard and the rank for everyone? If you were to look at who are your top players and your key top performers, who are they, and how do you actually see that on a scorecard? And is it transparent, at least for your leadership team? If you're panicking, saying, "Oh my gosh, who stays and who goes," and you don't know that data, then you probably don't have a scorecard in place. The recognition and rewards, I'll tie it to that. It is still important, because if you know who your top players are, you really need to be recognizing them right now. They need to know that they are critical and valued for the future and for you coming out of this crisis. They need to know that they are, you recognize them as an individual to help lead you forward. Lead by example, maybe it's lead by influence, maybe it's not a management or a leadership, traditional leadership role, but you need them in place as an A player. So this is the kind of our talent optimization wheel. I think that's really important. I'm going to chime in with a few questions here. Could you help me with the best practice to make absolutely sure I can see if my employees aren't aligned with the new strategy? Yeah. Oh, this is a good one. So remember I talked about the head, the heart, and the briefcase? So we've got people with their briefcase, their professional choices, their skills and experience. It's really important. But we hire people for what they know, and then we tend to fire them for who they are. So you cannot go just on a resume and what their skill set is for the new way forward. It's also about value alignment. Do the values of this individual align with the values of your organization? Why you exist? Because you might have somebody who have completely different values, but they've got great skill set. And that's what you're going to cause a big frustration. And then the third component, and I say third, meaning literally we break it down as a third. It's a third of the importance. A third is the skill set and the background, the education, and what they know. Another third is who they are and their values and if they're aligned with you. And the last third is their behaviors and cognitive. Cognitive just means their ability to ramp up, to deal with the information that's flowing at them and the pace they're flowing at them, and can they process it and apply the right behaviors. And then behaviors are really how they act when the pressure's on or the pressure's off, and how that works with the rest of the team around. So we're big fans of predictive index. We're a licensed partner. We implement predictive index in organizations, but really understanding team dynamics and how they work. And that is critical for talent optimization during crisis and coming out from a rebound. Scott, anything else you want to add to that?
Just to interject a thought there, we, as you mentioned before, Jonathan, we use employee surveys to really get the pulse of how are people, how are they thinking, how are they feeling. We also use pulse surveys. So there's Tiny Pulse and I think and other tools out there, but I think what's really important is it needs to be confidential, where they can be honest with you. They can tell you how you feel. And I think that's a really good strategy. And that's kind of an answer to, there's question number 2 here is, how does Titus Talent leaders stay connected to employee struggles? We did a COVID survey. It was anonymous, and we just addressed concerns. And so we held weekly meetings where all employees would get together, and then we also made ourselves available for people who had questions, wanted to talk to us.
Yeah, I think on this, so 2 things just to diagnose and know what's going on, making sure that you're really aligned. 2 things. One is at the end of this webinar here, we'll give you some information so you can request the COVID response survey. It takes 5 minutes and will help you really understand where you need to work on specifically in the crisis. And then secondarily, another 5 or 6 minute assessment, which will help you see where your strengths are on this wheel and where your biggest areas of opportunity and how you rank. Because 9 things can seem pretty overwhelming, but if you know where to tackle first, where the kind of the biggest area of opportunity is, or sickness even, and we can give you some solutions that we put into place for other organizations in each of these areas on the wheel. So those are 2 surveys I'm going to send you with some great data points and follow-up stuff. So I think, all right, we're doing okay. We're doing another question here. Best way to manage the impact of a reduction in workforce. Okay, so I am very, very thankful to say we've not had to do this. We've certainly tightened the belt and manage our cash flow and manage our expenditures. But we have a people first policy or principle that we make our decisions by. So what's best for our overall people? So we are working our hardest to make sure all of our people are not just surviving, but thriving through this season. Not only professionally, but also personally. So caring for people. I think I heard somebody say it's how you treat your employees now are really is gonna be your employment brand for the next 5 or 10 years. So remember, lead with empathy, and how you treat your people is so, so important. Now, tough decisions to make. It's not a family. It's not about which kid gets to eat last. That's not what we're talking about. Most of you run a business. It's an organization that exists for a purpose, and employees help you achieve that purpose. And if you don't have the revenue coming in and the clients and things like that, then you have to make those tough decisions at times. And people understand it. Nobody wants to be the collateral damage in it. But I think how we treat people with dignity, with empathy, and over communication. So I'm thankful that whether you agree or don't agree, I'm thankful that the government is helping out tremendously to a lot of individuals who've been displaced right now. And so that's what unemployment insurance is for as well. So we're paying for that. But I think, just communicate, empathy, dignity, and over communicate. So I'm going to switch here to the last slide. So while you have us here for another few seconds, but we always like to give back time at Titus. We're always trying to, our meeting goes a full length, but we want to give back time at the end. So you've got transition moment here, bit of a breathing space. But Scott's contact details there, his personal cell, my contact details. Please do reach out if you have any questions. We will volunteer ourselves to help through. It's kind of our way of giving back to companies. If you have questions, if you literally just grab your cell phone and open the camera and point it at the screen. So open your camera and point at the screen. You don't need no click. You just point it at the screen. Don't need to take a picture, and it will automatically open up a Safari or Google page. And it'll give you an opportunity just to click and say, hey, follow up with me on, I want this well-being assessment from Amplify. I would like to have a 20-30 minute conversation with Scott or Jonathan. And then if you would like to, we'll also send you a link to our talent optimization survey, which can see where your areas on the wheel sit. So we'll send that to everyone who's joined the webinar here today. Thank you for the questions that have come through. Thank you for the attending today. And certainly do hope that it was helpful and beneficial to you. Please do stay in touch. And we'll be doing a series of webinars as well coming up. On our YouTube channel, you can find how to lead and manage remote workforce. So you can go to the Titus Talent Strategies YouTube page and you'll find that. Another one we did last week on just how to be a high-performing remote worker, more for an individual. All practical tools and tips that our team have found just working from home. Everything from noise and managing kids and schedules and rhythms, but really fantastic response with 650 or so people arrive at our webinars in the last couple of weeks here. So please do join or grab a hold of either of those webinars. And then we've got a few others coming out in the series coming out in the next 10 days or so. So thanks a lot. Have a great weekend, great rest of your day. And again, thanks for showing up.